field as well. So pretty cool story. I don't know if you guys know this guy, but there's $1 million earner. His name is Neil Gerfine. And so we before COVID, guys, we used to have actual huge events. And we have a convention which is coming up this year. So when we had the convention 2 years ago, Samir introduced us to Neil Gerfine, and he was like, the one thing you need to remember at all times is never go below. I have here on the slide 8 to 10, but he said never go below training 8 to 15 people at a time. Always be training 8 to 15 people at a time, and you will never have any money issues because you should be able to write 10K personal minimum from that, guys. And so that West Coast mentality, we're going to start to build that here within our hierarchy and make sure people understand that 10K is clockwork. This is what we do, right? And so with that, you got to be training a lot of people. And the only way you're going to train a lot of people is having the right mentality, like Josh talked about, as well as building your attendance. A lot of things are going to come from that. And that's why we focus on attendance every week and focus on growing that. So training 8 to 10 people a month from double digit recruiting, that's one of the ways that you can get to 10K, being a 10K producer, either personal or base shop. So if you're training 8 to 10 people, I know Josh and Jen kind of mentioned this earlier, but if you're training 8 to 10 people, you should just be setting 10 appointments a week through those 10 people. So if you, a good rule to remember is whatever number of appointments that you're setting per week is what you're going to average in production that month. So here, if we want to hit 10K in production, whether it's personal or if you're the main one training your team, like I know, for example, Trishana, you just got promoted, so you may be working with a lot of people on your team. You want to focus on setting your 10 a week so you can get to 10,000 in the month, right? So if you set 10 a week, you'll at least go on 5 throughout the entire month, and multiply that by 4. That's 20 sales 20 appointments that you do in a month. Just like Josh said, 50% of them will close, and now you have 10 sales. That's your 10,000. So 10 a week, go on 5, 10 sales a month, right? If you change those numbers and you want to go big or go home, right? Then if you start having a team, now you have, your focus is to set 20 appointments a week. Then you're doing 20,000, then 30 appointments, and now you're doing 30,000. Right? Weekly focus. So when you guys get off of training, make sure you get on your QA setting blitz with your team and set appointments. If you have no appointments set throughout the week, you're closed for business. You are closed. Your doors are not open. There's no clientele coming into your business, guys. And so if week to week goes by and there's no appointment set, no money's going to come in. And then just like Josh said, your thinking is going to get funny, right? So this is critical. And one of the major ways to do that is through field training. So when you think about it, when you're training people, when you start having a team, you want to treat everybody like a direct. You're the best one on your team. And so like, for example, with us, obviously I'm a regional leader. I have a strong producer, Josh, on my team. So he's a leader. I'm not really training his people or working with his people directly, but everybody that comes through his business, whether it's through multiple legs or multiple people, he's treating all of them like directs. Everybody that I'm working with, my directs, and sometimes I'm helping out Morgan and everybody else, you want to treat them like your direct, even though they may be deep within your team. Like if, for example, I'll just go through easy. So I hire, okay, I didn't hire Josh, but Josh is under me. Then Morgan is under Josh. Then under Morgan is Joali, right? And then under Joali is Lavelle. So it just keeps going and going and going and going deep. But you want to build relationships with all of those people like they are your direct, like they are Josh to me, right? So with that, you have to create that mentality within your team that they know they can reach out to you. You can help them in different scenarios. Obviously, later on, you're going to disperse that leadership to other leaders on your team. But you always have to remember, from you down, Bruce always says that from you down, you're the best one from you down. So always focus on treating everybody like you're direct, check in with people, touch base with them, see how they're doing sometimes, right? That's huge when you're building a team and camaraderie and helping people be on the same goal and the same mission to setting those appointments every week and getting your team to 10K. Now, a technical note for appointments. When you actually go on field training, the name of the appointment is, it's a field training appointment, which means you're training somebody. It's not entertainment. We're not doing these appointments for the trainees to just be like, yes, get me a sale. Awesome, Shondell, you're amazing. No, the goal is for you, whatever you're doing on the appointment, to get that sale, that the new trainee can start learning how to do that. And the only way that that starts to happen is by debriefing. That's what we call it. I heard Jen said that a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, oh, that's a nice way to say it. So I'm going to use that. So with that debriefing, so after every single appointment, you need to meet with your trainee and go over the appointment. So quick history lesson. Previously, we used to actually drive to appointments, guys. We used to drive, get in our car, sit in traffic, go pick the recruit up, drive to the appointment. Sometimes we're in the car with them for an hour, 45 minutes, all of that. Guys, we used to drive around and meet people. So with that, or hop on the metro together. I know they did that in DC. So there was tons of time to be with the recruit and build that relationship. So now we're on Zoom. People get on Zoom, hop off Zoom right away. It's like, oh man, no relationships being built at all, right? So with that, when you get off the appointment, especially if you close a sale, don't just be like, yes, we got the sale, post on Telegram, and then that's it. No, meet with your recruit. So what are some things that you typically want to go over? You need to obviously ask them, what questions did they see? Like, before every appointment, I always tell my recruit, okay, write down the questions that I said, write down the questions that the client said, write down how we answered them. That's critical. Questions is the key to good presenting and helping people make the right decisions and therefore closing. So people got to be good at questions. Then ask at different points throughout the presentation, like if there was objections, okay, hey, what objections came up today? How did I answer them? So they can learn that, right? Just feel it out and just make sure that they're understanding what they need to do and the process so they can continue to get better. And then let them know that through the next appointment, they're going to start doing some of the presentation, right? They need to start practicing. So eventually it gets to the point to where I'm just watching and really filling in while the trainee is actually doing the appointment. But that will never happen if they're not taking notes, if they're not practicing the presentation. If you don't have a recorded presentation, I highly recommend you record one so your teammates can start watching that. But debriefing after the appointment is huge, because that's where the duplication is going to happen. So with that, duplication is huge. Just like Josh said, U+2. If you can start field training and then have your teammates start field training properly, then you'll get to 20, 30, 40, 50,000 in production, guys. It's not hard. It's just getting a couple other people to do exactly what you're doing, but you have to be the example first and go out there and write 10K. All right.
There
you go.
Yeah, so next is referrals. If you guys didn't catch it, those last two were about recruiting to 10K basically. Though if you want to summarize those last two slides, attendance and field training. Now this one is a mix between recruiting and your personal market, because some people, they're really good at doing 10K without recruiting one soul, in other base shops, not in our hierarchy, but other hierarchies, right? Which I won't name. But the getting referrals is such a great skill because it helps you stay in business while you build a business. And you don't have to recruit, but we get to recruit. However, we all know, if we've ever been not even a leader in Primerica, but a manager at any place, or you talk to any business owner, the biggest challenge they have is finding the right people. It's not a Primerica thing, guys. And I've talked to many business owners that I've ran into, and I always ask them, what's the biggest challenge in your business when building your business? They always say, finding the right people. So as you are working through and trying to find your champion right there that you can't really define, they kind of poke their own heads up. You got to stay in business. So I highly believe in it's not who you know, it's who you know knows, right? A lot of us have grown up knowing it's not what you know, it's who you know. But take it a step further, it's not who you know, it's who you know knows. And I tell all the new recruits all the time when I'm doing a fast start meeting and we're about to do a list. Listen, Trishana, not everyone on this list is going to be a recruit. Not everyone on this list is going to be a client, but everyone can lead you to somebody, can't they? So I'm not concerned with the people you know. I'm concerned with the people who you know knows. And I'm not trying to work with the people that you know, I'm trying to work through those people. So let me show you what that example looks like. I'm going to build you a whole list of referrals waiting on you to call them once you're licensed. And then I show a couple of examples. I've shown Trishana's example. I've shown many other trainees examples so that the new recruit knows if you don't remain coachable, you're not going to get this. You're going to have your little 12 people to depend on. You won't even know how to call a recruit or a client to get a referral. And before I get into explaining all of this extra bullet points here, or boxes, as you can say, Ratna Kong, who is our office manager, she has done such a great job just lecturing me, if you must say, because she's like a mom to me. I'm scared of her, guys. I'm scared of her more than I'm scared of Shaq. She puts her foot down and she really knows who's protective over the hierarchy. And she took 45 minutes out of her precious time to really coach me on how to get referrals because she was and still is getting calls coming in from 401k rollovers that she just has to do like 10, 15 minutes of paperwork for, send it out, and makes a good 2 to 4 grand just off rollovers. I want to do that on top of my recruiting numbers, you know? And I sat down with her and I just listened. I asked questions, took a bunch of notes, and it didn't hit me until maybe a couple months after I used what she told me to do. And I finally figured out that it wasn't what you say, it's how you say it to the client and what your level of competence is. And it's not going to be what you think it's going to be, it's your experience that you're going to get. So as you go through your own warm market and you start to ask these referral questions from other trainings that I have led or done, those questions are going to sound awkward to you at first because that's not how you normally would ask a question, but you got to follow the way that question is. And on top of what you know, as far as what to do in the QA with the client, helping them. So you can build through your warm market by building organic relationships. So even if you don't have any recruit on your team, just touch base with your chicken list. Make a chicken list. People that maybe you were scared to contact in the past because maybe you didn't feel competent enough or confident enough to talk to them. It took me 4 years, guys, to get my godmother to sit down and change her whole life policies, right? Over 4 years. That's my godmother because why? I didn't have that much credibility and my competence wasn't there to answer all her questions, right? She's had Lincoln Financial come through. She's had 3 other life insurance companies go through. It was just a mess based on what she had. So I had to go through that before she could give me 3 to 5 more referrals that turned into more. I had to go through my own mother with my trainer to get 17 referrals. But that brings me to the recruits warm market. So of course I started with my own warm market and I built from there. And the reason also why you want to build from there is because there's going to be a couple times in your business where it's not going to be perfect. Better yet, no month is ever going to be perfect. So you might as well scratch perfect off your list, right? You might have great months compared to last month, but some months may be lower than others. And when you have a low month and your team may not be as focused, that's okay. But if it's to be, it's up to me. Tell yourself that. You got to take control of your business and take responsibility because if your team is down, it's your fault as the leader. Once you take responsibility, you make more money. And then I have had many times that I remember, not specific time frames, but the team was down. I said, you know what? I'm not going to try to convince anybody to set an appointment. I'm going to pick up this phone myself, go to my personal referral list that I've been building and call a bunch of referrals myself. What happened? 3 to 4 other appointments got that got booked for the week, 2 happened, and I got some production out of that. Why? Because I didn't have any appointments through my team. That's okay. I got my own business to run, right? I can pick up the phone and stay in business while I build that business. But if I have a recruit to work with, of course, that's my first focus. And that's what your first focus should be, so that you can build that person and they can get into the QA as much as possible. And remember, people disconnect from the business when they stop going on appointments. That's the only catch in Primerica. The only catch is if you don't go on appointments. You don't go on appointments, you don't make money, things get funny. And you got to teach your recruit to stay in their warm market. And you work through that and go through the character reference like Shay talked about earlier. Go through the triangle offense if you're still using that, and teach them how to get referrals, because you've learned how to get referrals. Another form of referral that's really great that we've been taught by Hector Lazo years ago when we used to go to physical meetings and travel an hour away to Gaithersburg, and or even 2 hours if you're on my team, bus, metro, walking, fun days. Beneficiary and emergency contacts. Beneficiary contacts normally are always going to be hot. Emergency contacts are not always the hottest. So when you ask for emergency contact, you want to ask for the hottest people to them. People that are brothers, sisters, cousins that they talk to on a regular basis, and get the client to let them know to expect a call from you via 3-way text, or call the beneficiary and or emergency contact to introduce you right there if you're in person. Or if you can do it on Zoom, great. They can hear you on speaker. But if that beneficiary or emergency contact is not hot, you're not going to get a close most likely when you do that appointment, or even a carryback. If they are hot, you may get better. You're going to get better results to close on the first appointment or a carryback. In each presentation you go through, no matter if it's a recruit's warm market or your personal referral market, that presentation, each presentation, no matter if you close or not, you should do such a great job where they said they got so much value. You answered all their questions, whether or not they asked them, and they felt comfortable with you. You should be able to ask for 10 referrals. And because you ask for 10, you're going to get 3 to 5 guaranteed minimum. Guaranteed. As long as you ask the right way, because that's not what you say, it's how you say it. But you got to ask for 10. I used to ask for 3 to 5, and I would get like 1 or 0. I got so frustrated. Then I was like, let me see if I can make an adjustment and ask for 5 to 10. Then I just started asking for 10. And then I started seeing the difference. 3 to 5, right? And as you break through the first layer of referrals, it may still not be a mastery on your end, but then you start to get to the second layer of referrals. People start expecting you to do business with them on the first appointment they meet you. The client expects you to do business with them, not the other way around. It's really cool once you get to that level of referral market, because the client really advertises their referral to you, or you to the referral. So so any questions, guys, before Josh takes over?
Yeah, if you guys have questions, feel free to post them in the chat. Josh wanted to ask a couple questions here, guys. So if you have any questions, post them in the chat and we can answer them. But go ahead, Josh.
No questions, Your Honor. But
there's a question.
There you go.
Cheryl, how are emergency contacts different on Zoom? What do you mean, Cheryl?
Can you unmute?
Yeah, she's on mute.
Do you have to change any of your language for the Zoom or?
Before I answer that question, do you think you have to change the field training appointment presentation?
No.
No, right? So everything stays the same. The only difference is what?
We're not face to face.
We're not on Zoom. I mean, we're not in person, my bad. We're on Zoom. And instead of writing on a piece of paper, guess what you're using on Zoom?
The chat?
Huh?
The chat?
The what?
The chat.
How would you draw on the chat?
Oh, your whiteboard.
Your whiteboard, right? Did I answer your question? Awesome. Any other questions, guys?
Yeah, there's Shoshana said, how do you respond to a new recruit saying their warm market isn't qualified? Do you want to answer that? Since she's on your
Yeah.
team? Okay.
Yeah. So what led the recruit to say this? When did they ask you this question, Trishana?
This was the other day. This person was just like, basically in the meantime, while their people are getting trained, they would like to, in this verbatim, sell some policies. And I'm trying to figure out how to respond the right way in terms of them understanding that you have to build a team in order to sell policies, especially if your warm market isn't qualified.
Yeah. So I've had a couple people that don't have a qualified market. So when I go through the fast start meeting and we're going through building a team, building clientele, are you saying that's when they tell you their market is not that qualified?
No,
Or when,
this is someone who's already been through Fast Start.
okay, have they been through appointments already?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what happened to the referrals?
Um, I, I don't know. Nothing happened to the referrals. Um, I think it's just the worry about not being able to reach the referrals that they have.
Have you called the referrals with them?
No.
Okay. I would call the referrals with them. Sometimes a referral, and this is something that I don't want you guys to be used to, but some clients will give you non-qualified referrals. But because they are referrals, they're expecting to do business with you. That's just what a referral is, right? And some referrals that are in their 30s, they're going to know other 30-year-olds, and most other 30-year-olds by this time have children. So you will be able to work through that person. You'll do a one-on-one, and that's okay if you're not training anyone, but you can set up a referral appointment that's non-qualified, that's your personal one. If their market, they went through appointments, so obviously they went through qualified appointments in the beginning. They probably just ran out of QAs. That's okay. But those original QAs should have referrals that are qualified as well, and you can reach out to them. But if somebody said, I don't have any qualified appointments, or they really don't, that's okay. I would say, hey, listen, a lot of people in your situation, they had the same concern too, because I did also. I was 20 years old coming into this business, and I didn't have that many qualified appointments. The only person that could get me to qualified appointments was my mother. And then I ran out of people. That's okay. But what I found was when I recruited other people, my trainer started training these people for me. And eventually I had to step in to help my trainer train them. And a lot of these times, these recruits, they would leave their clients back to my trainer and they would go back to me. But even when my trainer took my recruits on the training appointments, that appointment will be split with me because that's my recruit. So it's still my market technically. So if you don't have
As long
personal
as you're
appointments,
licensed.
yeah, as long as they're licensed. So I lost my train of thought. So yeah, if you just recruit 3 to 5 other people, my name is Trishana. I'm your trainer. I can take those people with you. You just focus on getting licensed. And by that time you're licensed, your teammate will have 50 to 100 referrals waiting on them. And guess what they're going to be split with? You. So either you can worry about 3 to 5 personal appointments yourself, or you can let me build 50 to 100 through your market of recruits. Which one would you rather have? You sell the long-term vision because they're not here for short-term, they're here for long-term. And I had multiple conversations like that with people because, they had the same concern. It's a legitimate concern. Does that help? Okay.
All right, Josh.
All right. To end on the right note, I want to it's been the first week of 2000 of the new year is over. It's in the books. Okay. I don't know if you guys knew or not, but it's a brand new year. So, I feel I've been listening to a podcast that I ran across recently by a guy named Larry Weidel, who is a giant in our company, like a $3 million earner. And it's called the what is it called? Anybody's interested.